My brother was magnificent, and our parents adored him, as did I. However, their attitude towards me was rather tolerable. I didn't excel in sports, school, or other activities. My achievements went unnoticed, while my brother got into medical school. While I was attending community college, our parents funded his education so he could graduate debt-free. They saw a bright future in him. As for me, I was offered student loans. So I did, gradually finding my place in their world and limiting communication to a minimum. We only saw each other with my brother at family events. Eventually, I earned a master's degree, and I enjoy my career. I like helping people, but planning my future was necessary. I knew I could make a good life with a partner, but children would lower my standard of living. So I got a vasectomy. I met my wife, who supported my choice of a child-free life. We bought a small house in an affordable city and got a couple of dogs. My brother died during his honeymoon. It was hard for our parents. My wife and I went to my hometown for the funeral. I met with my parents and discussed how they were feeling. It was our first conversation since my brother's wedding last month. They were clearly upset. My mother suggested naming a child after my brother if we have kids. I explained that I had to choose between children and paying off student loans, admitting to the vasectomy, and our decision not to have children. I was always confident that my brother would take care of their needs as grandparents. My father criticized me for this decision, calling it foolish. I explained that I chose not to continue our family line. I argued that if I had children, they would be secondary to me, just as I was to them at one time. After that, we went back home. My mother was going through tough times after my brother's death, and now, when I said I wouldn't have children, my father was just angry. I heard from the family that my words seemed insensitive to them. They haven't shown much interest in me since I turned 12. Once my father even offered to pay for the reversal of my vasectomy. I told him that my wife doesn't want children. I reminded him that we had already told them about our decision not to have children, but it didn't matter until my brother's death. I felt foolish admitting to my parents that they made me choose between paying off student loans and having children. You're not an idiot, I repeat once again. Your parents prioritize their desires, ignoring possible financial consequences for you. They only care about their needs. Don't be afraid to cut ties with them if necessary. Never should one have a child just to please someone else. Having a child is the most significant change in life and a huge responsibility. It's your choice, and parents shouldn't have a say in this matter, especially if they treated you disrespectfully and then expected you to be a replacement for the perfect child. Regarding the inheritance that should pass to the next generation, including the family estate and titles, which would protect the family's interests, your parents see potential grandchildren as replacements. They are indifferent to everything else. Also, they might have wanted you to name your son after your deceased brother if you had one. Then that grandchild would be a new opportunity for them to correct past mistakes and bear the burden of losing their uncle. I'm sorry for your loss. Right now, you feel guilty for choosing a childless lifestyle, but in reality, it's your parents' fault in this situation. I can never understand such thinking. It doesn't matter if they are descendants of some noble family, carry genes in their lineage capable of curing cancer, or direct heirs to the throne. They immediately thought of grandchildren, forgetting about the loss of a son, brother, or husband. If your brother's wife becomes pregnant in a few weeks after his death, at the funeral, she will learn how little her relatives thought of her in difficult times. Next story. Angie, my father's wife, is the kind of person who fears missing out on something important. She dislikes it when my father does anything without her involvement. Because of this, I'd rarely see him, as I don't enjoy interacting with Angie. My father tries to avoid actions that could be missed, so our meetings happen only every few months, when Angie is too busy to worry about his absence. My boyfriend has an apartment in another city where we spend the summer. At different times during the summer, our parents visit us. It's my mom and stepdad. I decided to invite my father, even though I knew Angie would probably not allow him to come. Initially, my father wanted to come, but he declined after Angie said no, so I scrapped that idea. Over the weekend, I went to my father's for lunch. We discussed plans for the summer. My father expressed a desire to go to a sunny place. I reminded him that the invitation to visit me was still open if Angie changed her mind. Angie was outraged, claiming she never said my father couldn't go. However, my father insisted otherwise, and it ended up in an argument between them. I just walked away. Now my father is angry with me for mentioning that Angie doesn't let him go. It seems we all have to pretend we don't know anything. Angie, if she really is so petty, should have the courage to admit it in front of people. My father now thinks I'm an idiot for pointing out Angie's behavior. You're not an idiot, and you're not to blame. Your father is embarrassed to admit that his wife holds him on a tight leash. He's directing his anger in the wrong direction. He should be angry at himself for letting his wife control every move. This situation should have been addressed earlier when it interfered with his ability to see his family. He's angry at himself but doesn't want to admit it. It seems he's forgotten that he's a grown man who shouldn't have to ask his wife for permission to go somewhere. But apparently, it's easier to be upset with the child who speaks the truth than to take responsibility. Some people seem born to be compliant, and no matter how hard you try, they won't listen to reason. They find it easier to avoid conflicts than to stand up for themselves or others, or to do something meaningful. I used to be such a person, but over time I learned to be more decisive. My husband, unlike me, is absolutely incapable of resistance and is ready to do anything to avoid conflict, which absolutely infuriates me. But nothing will change until this person decides to solve their own problems. I disagree with the idea that based on your conversation and the arguments you heard, your father might have used Angie as a convenient excuse. Sorry, I can't come because Angie will be very upset. I've seen partners use this tactic. People start saying they don't like their partner, and then it turns out not to be true. They just didn't want to go and shifted the blame to their partner to avoid upsetting anyone. He's an adult man. If he really wanted to come, he would have, despite everything. Now I want to tell a different story. We have friends that we have known for a long time. Recently, my husband and I were invited to a birthday party. Before the party, we asked if we needed to bring anything. The host assured us that it was optional. However, we decided not to come empty-handed. I thought donuts from a popular craft store nearby would be a great choice. There was room in the assortment for a gluten-free donut, specifically for my husband since he is gluten-free. At the party, we immediately placed the donuts on the table. One guest's mom raved about them, calling them the best in town. As soon as I opened the box, one of the kids rushed to grab a gluten-free donut. I politely addressed him, explaining that this donut was meant for my husband. I gently set it aside and started talking about other flavors like cookies and cream and Nutella. Regardless, the boy became upset and started crying, and his mom got confrontational, voicing her displeasure at my decision not to give the donut to the child. The situation quickly escalated, and the child's mother began yelling at me in the street. The argument escalated into a major conflict over my refusal to give her son a donut. I calmly reiterated my position. The donut was for my husband, and I knew that gluten was not harmful to anyone at the party. The woman continued to insist on her point, so I decided her behavior was inappropriate. She ended up leaving the party in tears. The hosts and guests were upset, and my husband supported my decision to leave early. You did what you could in this situation. Children often adopt the behavior of their parents. Their family doesn't seem to have much empathy, which is really unfortunate. She doesn't seem to be setting the best example for her child. She may have had some difficulties, but no adult with good manners and respect for others would be so concerned about a donut. Perhaps it would have been worth it to just keep the donut out of the way from the beginning. You were already trying to make nice by bringing something to the party, and it really shouldn't have caused a problem. A lot of people today feel entitled to something, and it seems absurd at times. I hope your husband enjoyed the donut. He's just a kid. Lady, what's your excuse? Normally, even well-behaved and intelligent children sometimes behave illogically. But for an adult to behave in such a manner is quite strange. Can you imagine what this child's life will be like in a few years? A woman should learn to stand firm in front of her child. Her child behaved unacceptably, and so did she, defending him in this situation. Everyone has to learn to take no for an answer sooner or later. This mother never seems to have learned that lesson and doesn't want to teach it to her child. You did the right thing by protecting your partner's medical and dietary needs. I am vegan, and if I'd brought a few treats to a party where not everyone is vegan, I would set aside vegan foods for myself so I would have something to eat. My next story. I am 28 years old. My sister is 30. She is getting married in about a month. Her future spouse, with whom I happen to have a warm relationship, recently celebrated his bachelor party. I was also invited to that party. Although I don't often go to such events, the event seemed pretty casual. We visited a few pubs and ended up at a club. Not knowing the details of the arrangement between my sister and her fiancé for the upcoming party, I didn't ask questions. The next day brought a surprise. My sister texted me, wondering how the party went. The conversation started with simple questions, but quickly turned to more personal ones. As her brother, I was in a unique position as all the other guests were personal friends of her fiancé. I advised her to seek clarification from her fiancé if anything was unclear to her. Noted that I did not see anything inappropriate at the party. My attempts to avoid intervening in the situation resulted in my sister feeling as if I was trying to hide something. To her insistence, I replied that I should not doubt the reliability of my chosen one without reason. This, in turn, provoked her reaction. She accused me of having no right to speak to her like that. You really didn't think about how this would affect your sister. It would have been easy to just tell the truth. Nothing happened. I've been to bachelor parties and I can attest, sometimes nothing really does happen. It's a common response, but it doesn't alleviate the worry and suspicion. You only reinforced her doubts about her fiancé's behavior. Your silence seems suspicious. You made your sister worry and your friend find himself in an uncomfortable situation. A few words could have made things better, but for some reason you chose not to say them. Which is really illogical. I may sound old-fashioned, but it's strange to marry a man whose fidelity you doubt, especially during his bachelor party before the wedding. If my brother or sister asked me a question like that, I'd be pissed too. It seems like normal trust issues, and they will only get worse if she acts like his babysitter. If she doesn't trust him, why would she even let him go to the bachelor party? Why would she choose to marry him if she doesn't trust him? If he wants to cheat, he'll find a way. This is a matter between them, and you made the right decision by not interfering. And even people who are supposed to do nothing end up doing something. Many people think it's a deal breaker. Some women have heard stories from their friends about their partners being pushed to do the wildest things during bachelor parties because it's their last day of freedom or some other silly excuse. A friend of mine ended up canceling her wedding because her fiancé claimed that his friends forced him to visit clubs, get private dances when he was against it, and make out with random women. You could have shown some maturity and told the truth instead of stirring up drama. A story that really surprised me. My son is 23 years old, and for 5 months now, he has been dating a girl who is 22. He enjoys communicating with her a lot. I think we have become closer, even though we have known each other for a short time. I should mention that her financial situation is much higher. My son said that the monthly allowance she receives from her parents is comparable to his annual income. He has on several occasions expressed concern that he might get the impression that he is only interested in her money. Therefore, he tries to pay his own expenses, shares the cost of joint purchases with her, and avoids expensive gifts from her. Yesterday was my birthday, and my son's girlfriend gave me an expensive designer handbag. I had previously expressed my admiration for this purse, but could never have afforded such a purchase. I was very touched that she remembered a comment I made long ago. When I told my son about it, he got angry. He said he has had a hard time turning down many gifts, trips, and vacation plans since he started dating her. He is afraid that the gifts might give the impression that he is interested in her money. When I accepted the gift, he demanded that I return it immediately so as not to disrupt the dynamic of their relationship. I refused, explaining that the gift was very thoughtful and pointed out that she would hate it if I returned it. Now, my son thinks I am being greedy and not paying attention to his feelings. He is convinced that I am contributing to his image as a gold digger and that our family is ready to take advantage of her position. You're not stupid. Your son is trying to avoid the impression of a gold digger, but the decision to accept the gift or not rests with you. It was a thoughtful gesture made especially for you. Refusing a gift is not decent to me, especially if it's the first gift. The first gift always leaves an unforgettable impression. She went to great lengths to pick something she thought you would like. That's really nice of her. You can compromise, accept the gift, and express your gratitude that she remembered your preferences. At the same time, you can hint that you should not spend so much money in the future because the value of the gift is not in its cost. His constant rejections can have consequences. He even refuses to make joint vacation plans, which in the future may make a girl wonder if she wants to be with someone who avoids shared travel. By giving up enjoyable moments, he may inadvertently undermine the joy of their relationship. If the situation were reversed and he could spend money on her, he would probably feel differently. It would seem normal for a man to want to court a woman he likes. it wouldn't have been a problem for him. The thoughtful gift was a gesture of attention. She was probably tired of people reacting strangely to her money or even refusing it because it made them feel uncomfortable. Your son's insecurity and paranoia may serve as a red flag for her. He should try to relax and enjoy the relationship without too much tension.